This is the Brewers POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the Milwaukee Brewers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, for a regular season game in August, that's about as heartbreaking as it gets this afternoon at American Family Field as the Brewers lose to the Giants, this one by a final score of 4-3, and lose the series 2 out of 3 games after losing this series to the Cubs the week before. Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Locked On Brewers POSTCAST. My name is Brandon Snide. You can follow me over on X, formerly Twitter, at Brandon_Snide. Follow all of my work over at WTMJ.com, where we cover all of our Wisconsin sports teams. As always, the Locked On Brewers POSTCAST is free and available. Thank you to all of you for making Locked On Brewers part of your day. We are free and available wherever you get audio podcasts, Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon. Wherever you get audio podcasts, you can get the Locked On Brewers POSTCAST as well. Also over on YouTube, where we are live right now. Go to that search bar, type in Locked On Brewers, hit that subscribe button for me, hit that notification bell, hit that thumbs up button for me if you could, and make sure you give us a subscribe over there and get all of our stuff. Myself and Chuck Freeman also on the daily podcast, also over on the Locked On Brewers daily side of things. The Brewers losing this afternoon at American Family Field. The celebration of life for Mr. Baseball Bob Uecker was spoiled. The Giants coming from behind and beating the Brewers this afternoon. As I had mentioned, 4-3. They take 2 out of 3 games from the Brewers in Milwaukee, and the loss now 81-50, dropping the Brewers 43-22 at American Family Field. Let's get quickly into your scoring summary, because I know a lot of you got a lot of thoughts and a lot of feelings. I'm not going to lie, before we get into the scoring summary, if you can't tell by the tone of my voice, I'm very disappointed in this team, not only today, but over the course of this weekend. And we'll dive into that. We'll get into a little bit of that, but I am disappointed at the way this team has played baseball over the last week and a half or so. I guess a little over a week, but we'll dive into that. Your thoughts, your reactions, your opinions, your comments, questions, everything welcomed on the program as well. We will get to your thoughts after the Brewers do fall to the Giants, that we have mentioned, 4-3. Luis Matos getting things going in the second inning for the game. The scoring summary in this one, once again, brought to you by 5 Hour Energy and FanDuel. And Luis Matos, I don't know if there's been a better hitter at the plate this weekend. I know Willie had a great game on Friday. Another home run from Luis Matos. That gave the Giants the 2-0 advantage in the second inning. The Brewers, however, right away in the bottom half of the second inning, responding by scoring a run. Brandon Lockridge would knock in a single that would score Christian Yelich, who earlier at the at-bat had a double. In the third inning, then Christian Yelich returning the favor once again. He would single to right field. That would score Caleb Durbin. That would knot things up at 2 apiece, and then nothing in the fourth inning for either one of these teams. And in the top half of the fifth, the Brewers with a clean inning. And then the bottom half of the fifth inning was a Caleb Durbin solo home run to left center field, 381 feet. That would give the Brewers a 3-2 advantage. And you were thinking, okay, utilize some of that bullpen, use Nick Mears. We saw Nick Mears. We saw Shelby Miller both of them tossing clean innings. Abner Uribe allowing a few guys on base. He allowed a couple of hits, but eventually would get out of the 8th inning unscathed, and that would take us to the top of the 9th inning, and unfortunately, in a 4-3 Brewers loss, the turning point in this one.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
Very frustrating 9th inning this afternoon for Trevor McGill and for Brewers fans, because it felt like everything was lining up for this team to kind of get going back into the win column after having a very bad performance on Saturday. But it would be pretty bad right off the bat. Matt Chapman doubling to right field. Luis Matos, as we have mentioned, part of the second inning with a single that would move Matt Chapman to third. Trevor McGill will then strike out Rafael Devers, but then he would walk Lee, and that would load the bases. And Elliot Ramos would single to center field. That would score 2 runs, and unfortunately, that's where the scoring would end. The Brewers with nothing in the bottom half of the 9th inning, and the Giants holding on for the the very late come-from-behind win against Milwaukee. Trevor McGill, second blown save in 3 days, and quite honestly, without William Contreras walking off this game on Friday night, they're a swing of the bat from possibly being swept by the Giants, who, by the way, are not a playoff team, who are not going to be in the playoffs, who aren't playing very good baseball. And the Brewers struggled to get one win this weekend in a weekend series where they were honoring the life of Mr. Baseball, Bobby Uecker. And I was disappointed by the performance from our Brewers this weekend. And it started really in Chicago. I know for the Brewers over that 5-game stretch, I still believe that the Brewers, for the most part, played better than the Chicago Cubs did. And I know the Cubs won 3 out of 5. The Brewers just hit into a lot of loud outs. The Cubs got a lot of lucky breaks, a lot of balls bouncing their way at Wrigley Field, but the Brewers were able to salvage 2 games out of that series. You had a 7-game National League Central Division lead going into this weekend. And again, returning back home, and I know this is a tough stretch in the schedule for this Brewers team, right? I think this was game 10 of 19 and 18 days. So it's a tough stretch, no doubt about it, schedule-wise, right? You're not getting a lot of rest. You're using a lot of relief pitchers, a lot of guys still battling through some injuries and whatnot. And I understand that aspect of it. I thought there would have been a little bit more energy. I thought there would have been a little bit more excitement, a little bit more from this team this weekend. And again, it's hard to sweep a team. It's hard to sweep any team in baseball. It's hard to win, period. It's a competitive sport, obviously, and these are professional players, and they're always going to give it their all. But I thought after kind of an up and down series against the Cubs that this Brewers team was going to kind of refocus, re-energize themselves in front of the home crowd. They had, this series this weekend. They're welcoming in the Arizona Diamondbacks for 4 games this week, so they're going to be home for a little bit. You're celebrating Bob Uecker and the legacy that he left behind and will continue to leave behind and the person that he was. And today you honor him, I think roughly an hour and a half pregame, and you respond by kind of laying a dud in front of the home crowd. Now, you did have 9 hits this afternoon, but you only scored 3 runs, again, against a team that I think you're better at the game of baseball right now than the Giants, clearly, with 81 wins versus 63 wins. But 3 for 13 today for the Brewers offense with runners in scoring position, leaving 8 guys stranded on base. Not a good performance, offensively speaking, from kind of the meat of your order. William Contreras, 0 for 2. Christian Yelich, the bright spot in the lineup, 2 for 4 this afternoon. Andrew Vaughn, 0 for 4. Bryce Terrain, 1 for 4. So you weren't getting a lot of production from the meat of your order this afternoon. But I will say this, and it's a lot of negativity, I know, and the tone of my voice is probably bringing people down, so my apologies, but I expected a series win from this team coming out of that series against the Chicago Cubs, who, by the way, don't look now. The Cubs are 5 games back in the National League Central. If that game's not final out in Anaheim, it will be shortly, where the Cubs are still leading. And the last I checked, they were up 4-1. So again, National League Central Division is not over at all. Kyle Tucker is just starting to heat back up for the Cubs. A couple of home runs, a few home runs this weekend out there in Anaheim. Tough schedule for the Brewers in the month of September. A fairly easier schedule for the Chicago Cubs in the month of September. A 5-game lead is all that's there for the Brewers right now in the National League Central. Now, if you would have told me or you in May, April, maybe parts of early June, we'd probably take that right now. But you work so hard for the Brewers to build that up and to continue to grow that lead in the National League Central, and now you're losing it because you're losing games against teams you should not be losing games to. And Trevor McGill, as we mentioned, blowing his 2nd save in the last 3 days. It's the 6th loss for the Milwaukee Brewers in their last 9 games. Not good baseball being played right now for the Brewers. 2 positives, though. Again, you still have a good lead in the National League Central. It's 5. You'd like it to be a little bit more. Once it gets under 5 is when things really starting to tighten up, I think, personally. But the other positive tonight, I thought, was Chad Patrick getting the start for Milwaukee. Now, you remember he started in Chicago, his last start, gave up a few runs, didn't pitch very long today, 5 1/3 innings pitched, 4 hits allowed, just the 2 earned runs. Chad Patrick set this team up for success this afternoon. The Brewers just unable to come through, and they lose a tough one. Heartbreaking loss. I mean, it really is. And for a few different reasons, as I kind of laid out. You know, obviously, I think you're better than the Giants. I think everybody knows that the Brewers are better than the Giants. I think they should have won this series, won this game against the San Francisco Giants. The Cubs keep winning and you keep losing. The Brewers, that is, 6 of the last 9, 2 out of their last 3 this weekend at American Family Field. And you're celebrating Bob Uecker, and you just had a heartbreaking way to lose a game. I mean, top of the 9th inning, you're up. You got your horses coming out of the bullpen, Abner Uribe, Trevor McGill, and you weren't able to get the job done. And I think that is what hurts the most for me as the Brewers fall once again, this one by a final score of 4-3. Your player of the game and your thoughts, your reactions, all welcomed on the program coming up right after this. Today's Locked On Brewers postcast is brought to you by 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. This grape, ginger, and lime flavored shot brings the iconic taste of a golf course favorite to a non-alcoholic boost. Perfect for sinking birdies or making great memories with friends. It's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Whether you're out on the golf course or you just need a little extra push, if you're like me, to power through your day, 5-Hour Energy Transfusion delivers the clubhouse flavor you love without ever leaving the green. Golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors. The grape ginger lime flavor of 5-Hour Energy Transfusion gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without ever leaving the course. And right now, you can amp up for the fun even more. Just buy, snap, and enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for 2 to any golf tournament in the United States. Unfortunately, this excludes the Masters tournament. This ends October 31st. Visit 5hewin.com for rules and entry to enter. Today's Locked On Brewers postcast also brought to you by FanDuel. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day. 48 hours from now, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and those preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot divisional winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, right now is your moment. You could parlay your division winner dark horses, your MVP picks, your maybe come from behind player of the year. Visit FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. Once again, brought to you by FanDuel. Fuel your game. A heartbreaking loss for the Brewers this afternoon at American Family Field, honoring the life and legacy of Mr. Baseball, Bob Uecker. They fall in heartbreaking fashion. This one by a final score of 4-3. The Giants plating 2 runs in the top half of the 9th inning, and the Brewers lose in very, very frustrating fashion for a few different reasons, as we had laid out. The Cubs keep winning. The Brewers, unfortunately, keep losing. And that's the way it has been going as of late. And things going to get a little tougher schedule-wise for our Milwaukee Brewers. Before we get into your thoughts, your reactions, your comments, opinions, and I know a lot of you have a lot of frustrations this afternoon talking about the second loss in the last 3 days for the Brewers, or second in a row. Let's get to tonight's Locked On Brewers postcast player of the game.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
Was going to happen regardless of today's outcome, and obviously it'd be a lot more fun talking about a Milwaukee Brewers win, a series win that would have clinched the series this weekend for them against the Giants. However, that's not the case. But without further ado, the Locked On Brewers postcast player of the game, none other than Mr. Baseball, Bob Uecker. Everything that every person in the world, whether you're in baseball or not, should strive to be. He has been absolutely everything and more. Always treated everybody like he knew them, like they were the most important person in the world. Everything he does for this, he did for his charity work was absolutely fantastic. It was emotional watching the game, for the pregame. It was emotional watching other people get emotional. I'm fighting, getting emotional right now. And that's why I'm so dejected with this loss this afternoon, because it felt like a moment for this team to kind of get it together, and put everything aside and win a baseball game for Bob Uecker. Unfortunately, they were unable to do it, but I'm not sure, because of who he is. And I grew up in Milwaukee. If I would be behind a microphone, it wasn't a popular job. It wasn't a something a lot of people strive to do, but he made it into what it is. And he has been everything and more for all of us Brewers fans throughout the course of my life. And I'm sure so many of you. So today, whether it was going to be a win, lose, or draw, Bob Uecker, Mr. Baseball, thank you for everything you did for the state of Wisconsin, the city of Milwaukee, and for Brewers fans and baseball fans everywhere. You get today's Locked On Brewers postcast player of the game. We love you. We appreciate you. We miss you. And hopefully this Brewers team can get things going in the right direction as they lose to the Giants this afternoon, 4-3. And we begin with Everydayer Charles over on YouTube. Painful, just painful, bad week. Yeah, it's been rough. It's been rough. As I mentioned, that Cubs series was very frustrating because, again, I know I don't want to keep going back to that series as we're now, that series started almost a week ago, but I felt like the Brewers for most of those games were just better than the Cubs and just couldn't execute at the right times. And this weekend, not really so much the case. Not a good performance against the San Francisco Giants. GCAP over on YouTube. Not sure why Siegler and Bowers are still on the bench after the deadline. Gasser, Churio, Henderson need to get back ASAP if we want to even play 500 ball. October roster better not look like this. Well, I think Logan Henderson's probably going to be shut down. I think at least for another month, roughly, because of that. What he was feeling in his elbow after his last start. So I wouldn't expect to see Logan Henderson. Jackson Churio is in Nashville. Robert Gasser is in Nashville. Both of those guys have been chalked up as potentially entering the big leagues end of August. And I know we're kind of getting to the end of August, but I would anticipate in the next handful of days, you'll probably see both of those guys. I know there's some frustration about Siegler and Bowers getting the nod in the ninth inning this afternoon against the Giants, but with who the Giants had out on the mound, Ryan Walker, that is, the delivery that he throws from the mound is very, very tough for right-handed bats. I also will say this about Siegler: I'm not, defending him for anything, again, still a young player, but I don't think he had a fair at bat in that ninth inning. I think he probably saw 4 or 5 balls in that at bat, and a couple of them were obviously called for strikes. He gets run up, but I don't think he really had a fair at bat. But unfortunately, it's not what matters. The Brewers do lose 4-3. Everydayer Jacob over on YouTube. If this is adversity for us, let it happen now and not towards the end of the season. And as Pat Murphy, kind of echoing those points that Jacob is talking about, you have to be faced with some type of adversity if you're going to win a World Series or if you're going to compete late in October. Every team has done it. Every World Series team has done it. And that's just the reality of it. You just don't want it to be self-induced like this, right? And I know the Brewers are fighting some injury concerns. Obviously, we kind of mentioned Logan Henderson and Jackson Churio, and eventually Robert Gasser will hopefully get back here. But 19 games in 18 days, including a doubleheader at Wrigley Field, just really hasn't been, things that are sort of out of their control, but you had this in control. You had this series at home in front of the home crowd. The Brewers sold out all weekend long as Brewer fans continue to pack American Family Field. And I think you kind of just let these games go. And again, we kind of had this discussion in April when I first started this show. These wins and these games, these losses, they matter. It doesn't, there is no game 163 anymore, right? The Cubs have now the season series over the Brewers. So you have to finish better than the Cubs at the end of the year. And 5-game lead in the Central. Could it be 3 before August? It very well could be. I mean, the Brewers schedule, again, these next 4 games against Arizona, you got to win 3 out of 4. You have to. You have got to. I would have said the same thing after Friday night's game, that they should win another game against the Giants, and that would have been, the minimum. You absolutely have to. You have to win these games that you're supposed to win, especially when you have, just over 30 games going on with the, regular season before you enter postseason play. Powers Jr. over on YouTube. Offense is dead. McGill can't pitch. Siegler flops at every turn. This team is sinking fast. Well, I mean, they've lost 6 of their last 9 games. They're, again, thankfully they did the work that they needed to do to get ahead of where the Cubs were, and they really turned it up, obviously, there in July, and obviously with the 14-game win streak in in August going into September. But yes, you have got to start and tighten it down, and we'll see how this team responds, right? They've been kind of cruising, playing carefree baseball, chasing the Cubs, catching the Cubs, taking off, at one point 9 games up in the National League Central. How are they going to respond now that things are starting to tighten up and they're losing ball games and the Cubs are winning? Brian over on YouTube, how fitting Brewers lose on Uecker Day. Uecker saw overall nothing but harsh failure, ineptitude from the franchise throughout his time here, like we saw today. Rest of this season will be, and then he doesn't finish the comment. So I'm guessing he is saying that the Brewers will not finish the regular season on a positive note, although I think they're definitely going in the right direction, throughout, July and September. And now you got to kind of corral it a little bit and take that adversity on the chin. And like we have seen so many times with this team, kind of bouncing back. And this series against the Arizona Diamondbacks will be a really good test for this team. Not because they're, a juggernaut, they're not, but again, they're not going anywhere. The Arizona Diamondbacks it is, but that's a series again where the Brewers should win. And how are you going to respond? You're just going to roll out the helmets and show up, or are you going to take 3 out of 4, possibly sweep the Arizona Diamondbacks like you should? Greg over on YouTube, Cubs aren't going anywhere. Get it together. Brewers, McGill, come on, man. Not a good performance today from Trevor McGill. I gave him the benefit of the doubt on Friday because I really think a couple of those hits, the ball just bounced, the wrong way, right? And Brandon Lockridge diving for that ball in center field. There would never have been a runner in, at third base if Lockridge kept it in front of him. But it was a bad break. I think personally for Trevor McGill on Friday today, there's really no excuse for Trevor McGill. And again, didn't pitch on Saturday. So, it's not like he's been overused, overworked. Again, Nick Mears with a fantastic performance out of the bullpen. We talked about Shelby Miller also with a fantastic outing. Abner Uribe, his 35th hold this season. Wasn't pretty for Abner this afternoon. A couple of guys getting on base, but he now has the most holds in Major League Baseball, and it was up to Trevor McGill to bring it home, and it just didn't play out for the Brewers. Isaiah over on YouTube, you play the D-backs followed by the Blue Jays and Phillies. You have to take 3 out of 4 at a minimum, and it's just tough, man. It's really tough. His Brewers schedule is, I think the last time I saw, now obviously things kind of shaked out a little bit, after I think I saw it about a week and a half ago or so, but it's the 5th hardest remaining strength of schedule in Major League Baseball for the month of September. The Brewers, that is, and the Cubs in the bottom half of easiest. So it's going to be, you have a 5-game lead. I don't know if that Cubs score went final yet as we're on this show right now, but the Cubs have an easier schedule and they're playing good baseball. They really were. And it kind of woke up in that series against the Brewers. And that's what you didn't want to see. And that's kind of why I said for the Brewers, this was a great opportunity for them to put the Cubs away, and you win 3 out of 5 in Chicago and Wrigley. And now you're talking about a team that probably has no chance at the National League Central because you would have left Wrigley with a 10-game lead with, just over 30 games. And it would have taken epic fail for the Brewers not to win the division, but you kind of allowed a little light down there in Chicago, and they've opened the door now. And Kyle Tucker's playing ball, and this is now becoming a more closer, run at the end of the regular season for the Brewers and Cubs in the National League Central. D-Dubs over on YouTube. Remember, a 5-game lead over the Cubs is actually only 4 because the tie goes to Chicago. It's absolutely right. And it's kind of what we talked about. You lost the series in Chicago last week. You lost the season series in Chicago last week as well. So now it's becoming a little bit tighter. And I'm curious to see how this Brewers team responds. They've responded all year long, guys. Like, we got to give them the benefit of the doubt. They have responded all year long. When their back was pushed up against the wall, they have responded. Today, this weekend, last weekend, not a great performance. Can they respond starting on Monday, playing a team that they should beat in the Arizona Diamondbacks? That's what I'm curious to see. Ryan over on YouTube, they had a chance to put a dagger in the Cubs, and the offense failed, gave them life, and now they are surging with us not scoring runs again. Yeah, and Kyle Tucker has woken up, had a few off days with the Brewers. Owen Casey putting on a performance in Wrigley in front of their home crowd, and they were able to win 3 out of 5, and again, a much easier schedule, and some of that is just the luck of the draw, right? Nobody knows how the schedule is going to play out. But, that's just the unfortunate reality. Now, this Brewers team has an opportunity to respond beginning on Monday, playing a team, a 4-game series against the Diamondbacks, which I think the standard, I think all of us would agree, I think you guys would agree as well, you got to win 3 out of 4. That's the minimum, because it's going to get tougher as you go on. And again, you're in the driver's seat in the National League Central now. All the pressure right now is on the Milwaukee Brewers. We'll see how they respond beginning on Monday against the Diamondbacks at American Family Field. Before we go, we do have an important request from all of you. Locked On wants to hear from our listeners. We put together a survey to learn more about you and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't like, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Once again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. As always, my thanks to each and every one of you. Thank you guys for always making Locked On Brewers part of your day each and every day. Very, very much appreciate the opportunity to be in front of this microphone, in front of this camera, talking about a Brewers win, talking about a Brewers loss, talking about the highs and lows, and hopefully down the road, we enjoy more wins. But the Brewers do lose 4-3 this afternoon. 2 out of 3 now to the Giants at American Family Field. Remember, Locked On Brewers is free wherever you guys get audio. Podcasts, Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon. Also over on YouTube. Go to that search bar, type in Locked On Brewers. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell. Get notified when we go live. And we will go live once again after Game 1 against the Diamondbacks on Monday evening. Again, my name is Brandon Snide. You can follow me on X, formerly Twitter, at Brandon_Snide. Tough one today, a heartbreaking one today, but win, lose, or draw, it is always go Brewers. Talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one. See you.